Okay, shalom and thank you for joining this Q&A class. Topic, Rebbe Nachman's view on learning philosophy. It's already known, if you've read already Rebbe Nachman's teachings, such as the book Sichot Haran, Rebbe Nachman's Wisdom, and Likutei Moran, that Rebbe Nachman was very, very against learning philosophy. Why? Why was he so against learning philosophy? He gives a very simple reason. Philosophy goes into questions and speculations about Hashem and the creation of the world, areas which are way above our human capacity, our human level. And these questions are so profound, deep, and tough. The answers given afterwards are so shallow that the questions plague, and they're stuck with a person for the rest of their life. In other words, the question is aroused by delving into this wisdom, this so-called wisdom, and then you understand the question, and you now begin to absorb the question, and then when the answer is given, and the answer does not suffice, so then what happens is there's damage here. The question bothers you. It taints your emunah. Rabbi Nachman says this can happen in life. This is exactly opposed Western culture, Western society, where they train and teach people. The education of Western society is you only accept things which you understand. Things which you don't understand, you don't have to accept. And Judaism and the Torah is exact opposite, that we are based on emunah, faith, blind faith. In that we put the wisdom. That's the prerequisite for learning Torah, for tapping into the wisdom of Hashem, is specifically emunah, which means I recognize that this is above my capacity and I only accept it through emunah. He says, Rebbe Nachman, it has to be like that. He says, there are answers to very deep questions. What's the problem? You're the problem. Your mind does not have the capacity to understand the answer. So he says these questions, deep philosophical questions, are way above your level, and any answer given won't suffice and gets you stuck for the rest of your life. Because of that, a person, Rabbi Nachman teaches, should not get involved in philosophy in the first place. Rav Nosson himself, he said, he spoke to a few people who had learned philosophy before they came across Rabbi Nachman and Chassidut and these teachings, which are based on Emunah. And they told Rav Nosson they regret that they looked into these books because these questions bother them in their subconscious always. They're always draining them in their subconscious. So it would be better not to have entered in the first place to getting involved in these books and asking these questions. Rebbe Nachman, he teaches a person, know your place. Society is not like that. Society says, no, you have the right to know everything. It's your way. 1 second. Society is built on you're Mr. Know-it-all, you're Mr. Gaiva, you're Mr. Haughtiness, and you're expected to understand everything. Judaism is no, that's not the case, sir. You have to realize, even if will learn for 1,000,000 years, there are certain questions that cannot be answered because your brain does not have the capacity. This is what Rabbi Nachman warned against philosophy. When he says secular wisdoms, is basically meaning wisdoms that taint a person's emunah because they enter the domain of philosophy and they begin to ruin a person's emunah. He wasn't against like studying math, algebra, the sciences, when obviously it doesn't contradict Torah, like Darwin, for example, Darwin's theory of evolution, chas v'shalom. Wisdoms which are needed, business and management and chemical engineering. These are things which are okay, which are positive, which help to make a person have a parnasa, to have an income, whatever, and he can that way serve Hashem. There's not a problem. Rabbi Nachman's warning was against philosophy, teachings that let you begin to speculate and to have questions, okay, about God and His way and His conduct. This is what Rabbi Nachman warned about. Because once you open up these things, he brings the verse, Kol ba'eha lo yeshuvun velo yasigu orchot chayim. All those who enter this wisdom cannot come out. They will not reach the pathways of life. They will not, lo yasigu orchot chayim. This is why fortunate is the person, Rebbe Nachman says, who's never opened these books. He just remains having a simple faith. And in this simple faith, he learns Torah, he learns Gemara, he learns Chumash, and he can also learn math and the technology and everything is skill, but it won't taint his emunah. This is why it's so important to stay away from these teachings and not to think, don't worry, I can read it. A person has curiosity. I can read these things. They won't affect me. Rebbe Nachman says, don't trust yourself. Don't be so sure about yourself. Like King Solomon also said the same thing. Don't worry about me. I'll marry 18 women and they won't bring me down. I'll get horses from Egypt. They won't bring me down. I'll do certain things and they won't bring me down. In the end, he was brought down from all these things. This is where Rebbe Nachman warns. Don't trust yourself. Listen to the words of the tzaddikim when they warn, this is a no zone. Philosophy is an X zone. We don't enter this world at all, this domain at all. Even if you're so sure about yourself, it won't affect me in everything. I've heard from people who've read one of the books Rebbe Nachman warned so much not to even touch, and in Breast of Circles, they don't even say the name. It's the Guide to the Perplexed by the Rambam, by Maimonides, Moreh Nevuchim. Rebbe Nachman warned very, very much not to learn from this book. I've spoken to a few people, especially people who are in the middle of conversion, and they said that their main inspiration in Judaism came from these books. That may be, but when they learn more and they get in that book and they see the follow-up, they get to questions that begin to plague them, and there's no answers for them. He called it the Guide to the Perplexed. Perplexed meaning those who have big questions and issues on God, on his divinity, on faith, on his conducting the world. And the Rambam used the philosophy of Aristotle and the Greek philosophers themselves to answer. And this book, Rebbe Nachman says, is very, very dangerous. You can have it, he says, that even Jewish Torah scholars, Talmidei Chachamim, will write books of philosophy. And Rebbe Nachman says, it's a danger zone. Be careful. You will begin to wonder, if it's a danger zone, then how could it be that they wrote books on it? So this again is the idea that free will is given and a person has to have the right choice, the right guidance in the world of the Torah. You can't say, oh, everything's kosher, everything's Judaism, everything's Torah, so everything's fine and dandy. You need a guide, you need guidelines, you need to know where to learn, where to look. You need a lot of compassion from heaven to get the right guidance. Fortunate is the person who picks up on Rabbi Nachman's advice not to touch any philosophy. You do better at without knowing it at all. Now the question is, and what if you've touched already philosophy? What can I do? What can a person say, what can I do if I was in a course in university at age 20, 21, 22, and I went all the way in philosophy, and now I'm discovering Judaism and Torah and Emunah, I want to be a religious Jew. What am I going to do? So like everything else, Rebbe Nachman teaches, if you put enough effort in praying to Hashem and davening to clean your head, you can get anywhere in life with prayer. Rebbe Nachman says, don't underestimate the power of prayer. The power of talking to Hashem is so powerful. He illustrated once. He says, it's so powerful to the extent that even if you have a pistol that's about to shoot, if you speak enough words to the pistol, it won't shoot anymore. Meaning the power of speech, dialogue, especially to Hashem, is so powerful that it can help for everything. Like Rav Nosson once said, if you didn't get somewhere in life, it's or A, you didn't daven about it at all, or B, you didn't daven enough. But the solution is prayer. And in this case also, the person has already been exposed to philosophy, what to do. He has to pray a lot. I pray a lot to Hashem to cleanse his head. Rebbe Nachman also in lesson 35, he says, how the head, the mind works, it's like a bin where you put in enough information and what was there already can get pushed out. So if now you have garbage technically or bad thoughts or bad ideas in your head and your subconscious, by putting in more and more Torah, it eventually has an effect and pushes out of your system. It cleanses you of your system of all these foreign ideologies. So summarize again, Rabbi Nachman warned very much not to enter the world of philosophy. It's dangerous because the questions plague you even after getting answers. The answers given by even Torah scholars, even Kabbalists, even Kabbalistic books that even bring these philosophical questions and try to answer it according to the Kabbalah, the answer is still shallow to the extent that you're not satisfied and it bothers you for the rest of your life. So what's needed is simple faith and not to open these books at all, to stay clear away because you'll regret it if you enter that world. B, if already you've been exposed to philosophy and you want out of your system, so you do a lot of davening, asking Hashem to help you, and a lot of Torah study to put in new ideas of Torah, pure Torah, Torah that's not philosophy, that is by all opinions kosher Torah, like the Talmud, Halacha, Midrash, Mishnah, Gemara, Shulchan Aruch, Zohar, the Chumash with the right commentaries, the Tanakh with the right commentaries, okay? All books written by earlier tzaddikim and later tzaddikim, recognize as tzaddikim, books that don't touch the domain of philosophy, God forbid. These things, this information going into a person can have a positive influence. Thank you for joining. If you have any questions or comments, you can send me a WhatsApp message, +1 732 800 1863. It's an American number. Or by email, Breslov Therapy, BRESLOV, therapy@gmail.com. Thank you for joining. Have an amazing week. And maybe we all stick to pure faith and the Emunah without any taint at all of philosophy. Thank you very much. Kol Tuv. Have a good week.